Welcome back, mining community, to the Dig Deep the Mining podcast. And today's guest is Mitch Vanderydt, who's the CEO of NorthGold AB, who are a Swedish-listed gold exploration and development company with resource stage projects in Finland. Mitch has a background in geotech engineering and metals and mining research, and stepped into the CEO role recently, and is here to tell us more about NorthGold AB. And what it's like mining in Finland. So that's welcome Mitch to the podcast. How you doing, Mitch?
Very good, Rob. Thanks for having me. Very nice to be here.
No, and I appreciate your time. It's as the time of this recording is just before the Easter break, and obviously we were just speaking off air, and you're spending your Easter in Sweden and not back in Canada. So yeah, appreciate your time in conducting this. So, as we always start this podcast off, I just wonder if you can give the audience a little bit about background about yourself, about your career, before we talk about NorthGold.
Absolutely, Rob. I started my professional career back in 2008 at an engineering firm called Golder Associates as a civil geotech mining engineer. My experience at Golder gave me exposure to a lot of mining projects. I got to travel around Canada, did a lot of mine construction, mine design, technical reports, that sort of area. Focused a lot on tailings, waste rock, pit slopes. I also went on to do a lot of mine permitting, a little bit of permit litigation in the US. And then, after my 10-year engineering career, I went to a top independent investment bank in Toronto as a research analyst, and I covered uranium, battery metals, as well as precious metals. And I hold a Bachelor of Engineering from Western University in Canada and an MBA from Schulich School of Business at York University in Canada. And I joined NorthGold back in July, so nearly 9 months ago now, as CEO. Started over in Toronto and been over in Europe now, in Sweden and Finland for nearly 2 months.
Right. So just wondered how you've been going over obviously the last 10 months as the CEO, how you made that transition. And also I wondered if you can just tell us a little bit about NorthGold.
Yeah, absolutely. I started with the technical background, and then I got a little closer to the financial side of mining as a research analyst at an investment bank. And it had always been in the cards for me to move on to corporate leadership at junior mining companies or otherwise. And this opportunity came to me, through a recruiting agency, through the founding shareholders of NorthGold, which are two solid groups, Starboard Global Limited, an international private equity group, and Magnus Minerals, which is a Finnish project generator and geo consultant. And these companies are involved with numerous joint ventures and listings. They have solid teams behind them. And I reviewed the projects that were in NorthGold. That is the Kamala Trend project and the Kopsa project, which are in central Finland, Middle Ostrobothnia, which is much lesser explored part of the country compared to, let's say, northern Finland in Lapland, where you have, of course, Agnico Eagle's Kittilä mine, and where Rupert Resources made a big discovery of their Ikkari deposit. So yeah, I'm excited to be here. Finland's a top jurisdiction, consistently ranked the top jurisdiction by the Fraser Institute. And the Middle Ostrobothnia part of central Finland is quite underexplored. The surface has just been scratched. We already have a few advanced deposits, and we think there's lots more to find.
Obviously, you just recently IPO'd and obviously raised a significant amount of money. How do you sort of plan to spend those funds, and how would they fund obviously the company moving forward?
Right. Yeah, we raised just under 4 million euros. We came just shy of our targeted size of our IPO transaction. I think we got over 91% of what we were looking for, which we were pleased with. And the goal is to spend roughly half of that just shy of half of that directly into the ground as core drilling. And then the other half will be split between early stage work, including IP surveys and, base of till sampling and, rock chip samples and that sort of thing. And then a little bit of overhead, of course, also. But the goal would be to put half of it in the ground as core drilling, grow our resources, hopefully make new discoveries, which we think is the best way to get share price appreciation for exploration development company like NorthGold.
Obviously, you can tell us a little bit about the team behind NorthGold, and do you sort of plan to make any hires in the near term?
Sure thing, Rob. As I mentioned, the two founding shareholder groups are Magnus Minerals and Starboard Global Limited. Magnus Minerals, they've appointed a board member, which is Henrik Lofberg, and he's involved with numerous other mining ventures with Minerals. And then on the Starboard Global front, their appointed board member is Roberto Garcia Martinez. He's the CEO of Battery Minerals AB, which is also trades in Finland and also has a project in Finland. And our third board member is Timo Mäki, is an expert geologist with decades of experience working in Middle Ostrobothnia specifically. He was credited with a major discovery at the Piesami mine, which is not too far from NorthGold's projects. And our chairman is a well-connected Swedish businessman and former CEO of a company, Train Alliance, that's listed up there in Sweden. So we have a good breadth of experience and a diverse team and board behind NorthGold.
Obviously, many mineral exploration and development companies aspire to sell, or obviously joint venture their projects to obviously a production company, obviously further down the project life cycle. Why does NorthGold differ in aspiring to advance its projects to production basically on its own? So why are you looking to turn an exploration company into a production company, a fully production company?
Yeah, great question, Rob. It's a lot of companies do talk about junior mining companies. A lot of them do talk about the goal of selling their projects. And, that's obviously on our radar too. However, we think the best way to sell a project is to have a plan in place to advance it through development, through to production. If you're talking about selling your project, you become in a position where you could be beholden to the larger companies. And, we want to avoid that situation. But obviously, a junior mining company financing CapEx and things like that can be challenging. But as our valuation grows, that becomes somewhat easier. But we will certainly be looking at joint ventures and opportunities to sell the company as we advance. We just don't talk about it too much.
Yeah. Obviously, you've recently joined as the CEO. What sort of challenges have you faced in the role since obviously you started with the company? And some of those challenges, how did you overcome some of those challenges?
Challenges. Well, it's a new jurisdiction for me. I moved from Canada over to Europe. But, culturally, Sweden and Finland is not so different. They both countries speak a lot of English. When you get up into central Finland, not everyone speaks English, so that is a little bit challenging for me. But we are growing our team here in Finland, our field team, bilingual team, and that's been really helpful. We're onboarding geologists, largely through consultancies at this point. We try to keep a lean team to minimize our G&A costs. So yeah, we have a project geologist, and our board member, Timo Mäki, is involved. One of our shareholders, Aurora Exploration, is involved as a consultant. And yeah, they help bridge that gap. Other challenges, the IPO was at a time, we completed the IPO, it's February, March, when the war in Ukraine was occurring. And, that made it a little bit of a challenging environment to raise capital. there had been lots of money pouring out of the European markets. The IPOs had not been doing very well at the time. But that was offset by the gold price, which of course had been rising. So we got it over the line. Like I said, we raised just shy of what our target was. But once the stock started trading and that IPO risk came off, we saw investors pile into the stock, and we've really diversified our shareholder base since. We IPO'd at 11.6 krone per share. In the weeks that followed the IPO, it rose up to the 70, 80 krone per share mark, and now it's fallen off a little bit to the 35, 40 krones per share mark where it is now. And the gold price continues to be strong. And now that the IPO is concluded, the war in Ukraine and that unfortunate war in Ukraine is having less of an impact on us now that we're legitimate trading gold exploration and development stock.
How do you think investors should value NorthGold stock?
We're an exploration and development company. Primarily, I'd say we're an advanced stage explorer, or in other words, resource stage explorer. We have 725,000 ounces of gold equivalent resources. It's mostly gold, a little bit of copper. Most of that's in the measured and indicated category, fairly densely drilled. Those are split across 3 deposits. Most of it is our flagship COPSA project, which is just over 500,000 ounce gold equivalent, just under 500,000 ounce gold only, excluding the copper. And these resource stage explorers, they tend to trade in terms of their enterprise value per ounce. I think where we're trading now, we're somewhere around 50 euros per ounce gold equivalent. I think the Explorer peer average is up, around 70 euros per ounce gold equivalent. And if you look at the developer average, it's up around 150 euros per ounce gold equivalent. And, we consider ourselves still a resource stage or an advanced stage exploration company. We are fairly near development. Back in 2013 and before that, there had been feasibility studies and PEAs completed for our flagship COPSA project. And we want to revisit those in the coming years. But this first year and a half, we're focused on drilling, exploration, and growing our resources. And, we're fairly unique, and, we're diversified across. We're not only a resource stage advanced explorer, we also do some early stage work. Our Kamala Trend project, which is our secondary project, we have some dozen drilled and undrilled prospects that require follow-up drilling based on encouraging geophysics, bottom of till sampling, as well as some initial drill holes that several intercepts over 1 gram per ton that require follow-up. And we don't even think we get any value in the market for that. So, we consider ourselves an advanced stage explorer, but we have a kicker of early stage exploration upside. And those early stage explorer companies they're tougher to evaluate, tougher to value, because you don't have resources in the ground. You're relying on things like single drill intercepts or a few drill intercepts and encouraging geophysical anomalies and things like that. But of course, the upside can be huge with those. And we think it's offers NorthGold particular upside, whereas the resource stage advanced explorers tend to trade in a range of enterprise value per ounce, whereas if we spend, let's say, we're aiming for roughly 20% of our core drilling to go to these earlier stage prospects, which have that blue sky potential upside. So yeah, I guess we consider ourselves advanced stage, valued in terms of enterprise value per ounce, but we have a near development stage flagship project with a kicker of early stage big upside.
So what, for those that are listening from obviously all around the world who may not be necessarily familiar with mining in, I suppose, that region, Scandinavian region. What makes Finland sort of attractive for mining and gold mining? I suppose out of all the Scandinavian countries, Finland is probably the predominant country for mining. What's it like in terms of obviously regulations, communities, how they feel about mining in the area and within the country? Just wondering if you just give us an overview of obviously the country and its mining regulations and its attitude towards mining.
Absolutely. As I mentioned, Finland is, a top-ranked jurisdiction according to the Fraser Institute. Only Canada and Australia really are ranked higher. Those jurisdictions are broken down typically by province, but in terms of country, Finland's ranked number 3. And that ranking system is based on, it's based on the geology, so the potential for mineral discoveries, but also the perception of regulations, policy perception, that sort of thing, and things like labor and infrastructure. And yeah, we think Finland's a great place to do business. An interesting thing about Finland is they only opened up their doors to foreign companies in 1996. So prior to that, it was only really government-funded exploration, mining and exploration activities. And, things didn't really pick up until the last decade or so, when you saw companies like, Agnico Eagle and First Quantum Minerals and others move in here and make large investments. And permitting is possible. Like we've seen Agnico Eagle permit and developed the Kittilä mine. There's a strong regulations in place that allow that to move forward. A strong rule of law here. It's not like in some places are perhaps quicker to get permitted than parts of Africa, but that's not necessarily sustainable. You often have protests and items like that. Some of the taxes and the taxes paid to the governments don't always get where they're supposed to go, perhaps. Whereas in Finland, we have a high degree of confidence. It might take a few years to get something permitted and up and running, but you have confidence, that it's going to go smooth and the money's going to go where it's supposed to go.
And in terms of obviously the country and their infrastructure and accessibility, just wondering if you can comment about that, obviously around some of the assets that you have.
Yeah, we are in historic mining jurisdiction, Middle Ostrobothnia, as I mentioned. The Piasalmi, copper, base metal, a little bit of precious metals got produced there. That mine has been in production for many decades. It's approaching the end of its mine life now. But we have there's infrastructure in place. There's access to ports. There's rail across Middle Ostrobothnia. We have road access to both of our projects. Generally, there's strong support for mining in the region. There are some signs of conflicting interests with things like windmills recently. Generally speaking, those areas are segregated. You have the mining jurisdictions or the mining areas, and then in other parts of other parts of central Finland are focused more on the windmills. But yeah, generally, we have strong. There's people around with mining backgrounds that worked at the mines. We're encouraged, and we hope to tap that labor someday. It's generally pro-mining in central Finland. Down in Helsinki in southern Finland, you do have a little bit of anti-mining sentiment, but generally speaking, especially in the central and northern parts of the country, it's strong support and positive perception of mining sector.
Are you planning to make any acquisitions using NorthGold's recent IPO?
Yeah, we have a free trading stock now that can be used as a currency to go out and buy assets. It's not our top priority right now, or it's not a high priority. We feel we have our plate full in exploring our two projects. One of them being the Kamala Trend, which is quite large, like I said, with like a dozen prospects that we could go out and potentially drill. That being said, we are keeping our eye open on possible acquisitions in our jurisdiction of focus. So, in central Finland, Middle Ostrobothnia, we've outlined a near-term, medium-term, and longer-term goals. And, the near-term goals, as I said, are exploration, growing resources, searching for new discoveries over the next 18 months. Beyond that, in the medium term, 2-3 years, we would like to, pivot to development and, possibly get a toll milling arrangement for our flagship COPSA and start completing engineering studies and finalizing the permitting that was initiated on that. But it's got a conditionally approved mining concession area that we believe we could finalize on fairly short order before ultimately perhaps moving into a production scenario in say 3 to 5 years would be the goal.
What are the sort of key risks for NorthGold, and how do you plan to mitigate them?
Yes, absolutely. Technical risk is often front and center in mining. We intend to follow standards such as National Instrument 43101 over in Canada. There's similar standards in Australia, but we'd like to adhere to these. It involves having a qualified person sign off on resource estimates and things like that. It involves completing stepwise engineering studies, PEA through to preliminary economic assessment, through to pre-feasibility study, through to feasibility study. And we would intend to, follow that stepwise approach to help de-risk our projects. We want to have confidence that the resources are there. We follow those resource estimate standards, and we want to have confidence in the costs that are associated with developing those. And, that's de-risked through those stepwise engineering studies.
Okay, and concluding, what's the outlook for the rest of this year for NorthGold?
Yeah, we're kicking off core drilling in May. So we hope to drill about 5,000 meters, most of which will be at our flagship COPSA, some of which will be focused on earlier stage targets over at our Kamala Trend project. That's being supported by IP surveys, which are being completed at both projects. The IP surveys at COPSA, for example, we're expanding the area. We're going to cut some deeper profiles. The previous project in 2013 had been an open pit. It's an open pit just under 1 gram per ton gold equivalent, with an extremely low strip ratio of 0.63 to 1 in the 2013 PEA. But there had been very little drilling done at depth there. So, we would perhaps look at some deeper targets, see if there's any possibility for an open pit to an underground hybrid type mine there, which had been the case at the Kittilä mine in northern Finland. It starts out as open pit and is quite common for these open pit projects. You make your discovery near surface, drill it out a little bit and maybe in an open pit deposit. And then if you can find that higher grade, more discrete zone, near the base of that open pit deposit, that can lead to long life, high grade mining. So those are some of the things we're looking at with our drilling that we're doing this coming year. We plan to drill at least another 5,000 meters next year also in 2023. And that would be also at COPSA and maybe a little bit more so at Kamala Trend. But those plans aren't worked out yet.
Yeah. Mitch, really appreciate your time and give us an overview of NorthGold. Looks like obviously exciting prospects. As you mentioned, Finland as a jurisdiction is ranked 3rd by the Fraser Institute. So there's certainly a lot of scope to obviously develop more assets there, and obviously wish you well with the assets that you have. If our audience wants to reach out to you, if they've got any questions, how can they go about doing that? And are you across any social media platforms where obviously you release your news feed?
Yeah, absolutely. I encourage folks to reach out to me. Please pass on my contact details. Our website is www.northgoldab.com. My email, I can be reached at ir@northgoldab.com. And I encourage folks to reach out to me. I have a presence on LinkedIn in terms of social media, so you can find NorthGold page or my own page there.
Okay, we can include all those in the show notes accompanying this podcast anyway. So yeah, appreciate your time, Mitch, and wish you all the best for the remainder of this year. And obviously, if you want to come onto the podcast later on in the year or even next year and give us an update, then you're more than welcome.
Sure thing. Thanks, Rob.
No worries. And for those that are listening, appreciate your continued support. Again, I'd like you, if you can share this episode amongst others in the industry, wherever you are. Obviously, this is a little bit more Scandinavian focused. So if you know anyone in Scandinavia or even in Canada or even the UK and even in Australia, appreciate your continued support. Appreciate you sharing this episode, spreading the word, so more people can get access to this episode and obviously other episodes in the podcast series, so it can educate others in the industry. So until next time, happy mining.